Do you think you can only communicate with the use of words, phrases, and grammar? Well, that is absolutely wrong. Everything in this world is communication. Either it is coloring, signs, body language. So, what is visual language? Visual communication or visual language is the result of the combination of what we see and the things we know and we learn, our cultural background, our beliefs, and the visual language is essentially different to any other language, either written, spoken, signs, etc., because its elements do not have an only meaning. For example, this hand might mean hello, goodbye, or a married man. Learning how to read the visual language is an empirical experience and you do not need any training. However, in order to learn how to write the visual language, you need a strict training because it requires concepts and specialized techniques, and the discipline that is in charge of the configuration of visual arguments is graphic design. The act of seeing becomes an instantaneous explanation of what happens, but this condition changes throughout the time. Therefore, seeing becomes a language. The things you see, plus the interpretation you give, start to encode. They are modified by the culture, traditions, and conventions. Things communicate more than what you actually see. I am sure you thought about a white wedding dress. Nevertheless, you would have thought differently if you came from a different culture. For example, in some Asian countries, red is the color used for weddings. For example, from this picture, what can be understood is that it shows an animal with wings called pigeon, or paloma in Spanish. And that simple animal, but in a different context and with a different cultural background, can symbolize a very different thing. In the case of the Catholic Church, it represents the Holy Ghost, and it is still a simple paloma. How about this paloma? With a higher level of abstraction, it means something very different. Think about the emotions it can provoke. Now think about all the reactions you can have when you see these palomas. The visual perception consists of the experience and culture. You assign meanings or connotations depending on the relations learned from the society or the environment. There are two types of visual communication. Number one, everything you see and can interpret freely. There is no intention encoded. It is called casual visual communication. The second one is called intentional visual communication. It is encoded and it has a clear intention to transmit information. Its function can be practical or aesthetic. And just like in written or spoken language, visual language can be denoted or connoted. The denoted language is totally objective. It is the object or image as it is perceived, and it will always have the same meaning. While the connoted language is subjective and it is conditioned by codes and conventions. In the visual language, there are 4 levels of representation. The first level of representation is called representative, and it is about all the images that try to represent or imitate nature in the most precise way, such as photographies or portraits. This level has a low iconicity, and its codification is very low as well. It is easy to interpret, and it gives a lot of practical information because of all the details it has. The second level is called symbolic. It was born with the writing. In the beginning, it was very representative. But with the time, and because of the impossibility to represent complex ideas, the written word was transformed into symbols. Nowadays, we still use symbols to express complex ideas. Contrary to the representative, the symbolic level has to be learned. Images work as providers of information. And even though this can be very intuitive, others are highly encoded, such as the computer and programming languages, alphabets, or trademarks. The analytical level of representation is destined to the comprehension of objects and processes. It has specialized systems of codification, and it presents relations and interactions among different objects within a process. Infographies are a good example of this level. In the abstract level of representation, the observer must be prompt to interpretation. It is a lot more complex, because the relation with the object it represents can be formal or conceptual. It doesn't try to reflect the reality, and its interpretation is subjective. The information transmitted by the images can have different functions, depending on its objective. The visual arguments can be classified in informative, descriptive, or persuasive. Now let's have a study case. Moi Magazine. Look at the following pages and think about the relationship there is between the symbolic elements and the text. In which level of representation are those elements? How about the photograph? Look at the color. Does it have a relationship with the other elements? Analyze the following graphic elements. How about the yellow line? Do you think it has a direct relationship with the text? How about the capital letter? And what do you think about the photographs? They absolutely don't have a relationship with the text. However, why do you think they are used? Can you think of other traditional or electronic publications? Analyze the type of language they use. Is it connoted or denoted? Observe the level of representation and the function it has. Does it complement the written ideas? So next time you go out on the road and see a traffic sign, or you go to a restaurant and see the menu, you will have the tools to judge whether there is coherency with the visual communication and the message given. Thank you for watching.